welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone. Well, the other day I was thinking about the brand new Star Wars trilogy, and I was thinking to myself, which of the characters in these films, despite the abomination that is The Last Jedi, which of the characters is actually the most interesting? And I think the most interesting character of all in this brand new Star Wars trilogy is none other than Kylo Ren. It really should be Rey. But Rey, as we all know, is a Mary Sue. She is a boring character. It's not that I find her distasteful or frustrating or I hate her as a character. It's the fact that she's just boring. There's no conflict for her. There's nothing she can't do. There is nothing interesting about her as a character because there's no potential for her as a character. You just know that she's going to have the right skill, she's going to turn up at the right time, and she's going to win, and she's going to be perfect, and there's just nothing that is humanly interesting about her. She's just far too robotic because, as I said, and not just me, obviously lots of other people have pointed out, she's a Mary Sue. But Kylo Ren is not like that. Kylo Ren is an interesting character. He has conflict. He has potential to go in all sorts of different directions. There's lots going on with Kylo Ren. And on top of that, he is being played by an actor who has some really good acting chops and has the ability to give you, I think, a really malevolent and frightening kind of villain. But unfortunately, the character of Kylo Ren has been ruined. And he's been ruined by writing decisions that have been made by both JJ and by Rian Johnson. And there's three key things that I think, three mistakes that I think they've made in the execution of Kylo Ren that have ruined him now as a character. Because when you think about Kylo Ren is supposed to be the new Darth Vader in this trilogy. That's how he has been established. He is the new menacing guy in the mask, the evil, malevolent villain who also has some internal conflict. And in this case, obviously, it also happens to be family-related conflict. He is the new Darth Vader. However, unlike the original Darth Vader, who had Menace, who was just a fascinating and really engaging villain, and who was just one of the best characters, one of the best villains that's ever been written in movie history, Kylo Ren is not. And as I said, there are three writing reasons why Kylo Ren has been ruined and his potential has been stripped from him now. The first of those things is the fact that they made him into an angst-ridden teenager. They gave him characteristics of an angst-ridden teen. And it really doesn't make any sense to me why they did this. The whole idea of Kylo Ren just losing control of his emotions and smashing up the place with his lightsaber, it just undermines your ability to take him seriously, especially when you've got people reacting to those fits of outrage in a comedic kind of way, or it's played off as comedy. That sort of makes it even worse. The original Darth Vader, when you think about it, what made him so frightening was not the lack of control. I mean, it's one thing to be around a person who can't control their emotions and who gets angry, even at things they should get angry at, but they rage up and they get out of control. There is something frightening about being around that person. But you know what's even more frightening than that? A person who is inhumane, who is emotionally detached, who is a psychopath because they do things that should cause some sort of emotion within them, but they do them without even batting an eyelid. They show no emotion at all. They are cold, they are calculating, they dehumanize their victims because they have been dehumanized themselves, and that makes them a really menacing supervillain. And that is Darth Vader in the original trilogy. But in this new trilogy, Kylo Ren is just like an angst-ridden teen. He's out of control, and it actually doesn't make him a particularly threatening or malevolent kind of supervillain at all. It undermines his villainy, if you will. Number two is they have used Kylo Ren as a comedy device in these films, and it's across both movies. It started at the very beginning with The Force Awakens and the opening scenes of The Force Awakens. Remember, we have all of these establishing things that are happening in that opening sequence in the village during The Force Awakens. And of course, we have the arrival of the arch nemesis, the supervillain, the new Darth Vader, Kylo Ren. And he turns up, and it's an impressive introduction we have to this guy. He's got this force of super soldiers that he's traveling with. He's got this big, black, menacing, and I think by the looks of it, the biggest Imperial shuttle that we've ever seen. It's even more menacing than what we've seen previously from the old Empire. And then he gets out of the shuttle, and he strolls with this malevolent confidence into the midst of this carnage and this chaos, and he's over overseeing this evil act of genocide. And then we have him stopping a laser bolt from a laser gun dead in its track. This is the most powerful thing that we've seen from any Force user to date in the Star Wars universe. And then within minutes of all of that sort of malevolence being sort of established, he's a guy in a black mask, he's menacing, he's dominating, and then we have him being used as part of a comedy routine. He is used in that opening sequence where Poe Dameron cracks that joke about who goes first. Do you go first or I go first? Now, people will say, but Brendan, weren't they trying to establish something about the character of Poe Dameron? And yes, they are. They're trying to establish something about the roguish nature, the sort of the devil-may-care attitude that Poe Dameron has. But in using Kylo Ren as the foil for that joke, what they are doing is they are also telling us, the audience, something really important about Kylo Ren. They are undermining Kylo Ren's menace, because what they are telling us is that Kylo Ren is not really that big a threat. Poe Dameron feels confident enough to make a stupid joke in response to Kylo Ren. Now, that's not how you respond to a supervillain if they truly are a menacing threat. You don't see that in the original trilogy. Even Han Solo, the sort of cocky, plucky smuggler, when he's confronted by Darth Vader, what you get is an appropriate response. But he doesn't make jokes because he knows that Darth Vader is the serious threat. And of course, instinctively, that's not how you respond to a serious threat. There were only really one of two things that Poe Dameron should have been doing in that scene. Number one was defiant anger, or number two was fear. Those are the two things that we should have seen. And if we'd seen those two things, that would have really strongly established Kylo Ren as this very, very serious and menacing new Darth Vader. It would have actually brought it all home to us. But we don't. Instead, we get this joke. And it carries on from there. And Rian Johnson, the absurd joke with the shirtless Kylo Ren, oh, put your shirt on, that was even worse. I mean, that just completely undermined him as a villain, especially when you think about the fact that in The Last Jedi, this was the film that sets up Kylo Ren as the new ultimate supervillain in this universe. He kills Snoke, and we've got the scene with this guy shirtless where he's part of a comedy routine. This does not help to strengthen the case that he is a dangerous, menacing threat who is to be taken seriously. It completely undermines that point. And you see, this is something that Lucas never did in the original trilogy. In the original trilogy, the jokes, the lighter jokes that we get, they come out of moments of tension, and the lighter jokes, the more silly comedic stuff, comes from the droids, who are observing. Effectively, they are observers on this journey. And so he uses those other secondary characters for humour, but he never uses his villains in this way. They are never treated as a foil or a straight guy in a comedy routine. You don't have jokes being told around these people, because clearly Lucas understood that that would undermine the evil, menacing villainy. You can't have a menacing villain if you can crack jokes around the villain. There is no longer any menace there. This person just doesn't carry any weight. Otherwise, you wouldn't do those things. You'd either be cowering in fear, or you would have this sort of strong, defiant anger, but you wouldn't be making jokes around the person, because that completely belittles their character. And lastly, they paired up Kylo Ren, and this is really all on Rian Johnson, because J.J. Abrams, as far as I'm concerned, J.J. got this right. This is all on Rian Johnson. They end up pairing up Kylo Ren with a snivelling, pathetic wretch, a clown of a character who is Hux. And this is just sort of the icing on the cake that completely undermines Kylo Ren's ability to be the new Darth Vader. The company you keep tells us a lot about who you are. And if you go back to the original trilogy, the company that Darth Vader keeps and the way he treats that company that he keeps tells you a lot about his menace and how evil and villainous he is. You would never ever see Darth Vader being paired up with someone like Hux. In fact, if you look at The Empire Strikes Back, you have Darth Vader killing Imperial officers who are far superior to Hux. And yet Kylo Ren has deliberately chosen, when he is the arch villain in charge now, he chooses to keep this guy around. Now, the company you keep tells us a lot about who you are as a character. Now, like I said, I think J.J. Abrams got this right, because what J.J. Abrams did is, in The Force Awakens, Hux is this serious SS Nazi type figure. He really is the Heinrich Himmler of the First Order. He's too young to have really been a soldier himself in the First War, but he is a passionately devoted ideologue who is ideologically blind, and he is so committed to the cause of the First Order that he will do evil things. He is an evil and dangerous character, and it is a really good pairing for Kylo Ren. In many ways, he's kind of like the Grand Moff Tarkin of this new trilogy, but then Rian Johnson completely pulls the rug out from underneath him and destroys that character and turns him into this sniveling, pathetic, worm-tongue, court jester type character that it makes no sense for Kylo Ren to be associating with if he is a serious supervillain. At the end of the day, they have completely undermined the most interesting character, and to be honest with you, I can't see how they can get this back, unless what happens is J.J. Abrams, in the writing of this third and final installment of the trilogy, basically just forgets what has gone before and places this new movie so far into the future that he effectively has the opportunity to mature and to really darken the character of Kylo Ren, so that all of a sudden his credibility and his cred as a serious supervillain, as the new Darth Vader, can actually be restored, and what has gone before hopefully won't count against him. Other than that, I can't see a way out of this. As per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know in the comment section below. If you like the content that I'm creating, please support me on Patreon. There is a link in the description below and a link on screen at the end of this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Left Foot Media.